I found a hidden clause in my apartment lease that saved me $18,000. My landlord's face when I showed it to him was priceless. 3 months ago, I was sitting in my apartment, surrounded by moving boxes, having the worst day of my life. I'd just been laid off from my tech job of 5 years, parent, another casualty of the industry's massive downsizing. My savings would cover maybe 2 months of rent in my overpriced San Francisco apartment, and breaking my lease meant paying the remaining 9 months upfront, parent. $18,000 I definitely didn't have. My phone buzzed with a text from my landlord, Mark. Reminder: rent increase takes effect next month. New rate $2,200 month per lease agreement. I nearly threw up. I'd completely forgotten about the 10% increase, scheduled for my second year. This was the apartment I'd fought so hard to get in a brutal rental market. 47 applications before someone finally said yes. Now I was about to lose it all. That night I couldn't sleep. At 3 a.m. I did what any desperate person would do, and I pulled out my lease agreement and started reading it line by line, looking for any loophole, any escape hatch. Most people never read their entire lease. I know I hadn't when I signed it 15 months earlier. I was so excited to finally have a place that I just initialed where the leasing agent pointed and signed on the final page. A clerical mistake on page 17 of 22, buried in a paragraph about extraordinary circumstances. I found something strange. In the event of involuntary employment termination, tenant may terminate this agreement with 30 days notice and payment of one additional month's rent as liquidated damages, provided tenant provides official documentation of termination. I read it 3 times to make sure I wasn't hallucinating. This clause, parent, which I'd never noticed, and certainly never negotiated for, parent would let me walk away by paying just 1 extra month instead of 9. The next morning I called my former HR department and got my official termination letter. Then I texted Mark, need to meet about my lease situation. 2 hours later I was sitting across from him in the property management office. Mark was already talking about payment plans before I even sat down. Look, I know times are tough, but the owners are strict about lease obligations. Best I can do is let you pay the $18,000 over 3 months instead of upfront. I slid my termination letter across the desk. Actually, according to page 17 of my lease, I only need to pay 1 month's rent to terminate early due to job loss. His face went from sympathetic to confused to slightly panicked in about 3 seconds. That can't be right. Let me see your copy. I pulled out the lease already open to the highlighted clause. As he read it, his expression was priceless, pert, like someone watching their winning lottery ticket blow away in the wind. This must be a mistake, he muttered. We don't include clauses like this. It's in the contract we both signed, I said, trying to keep my voice steady, and I have official documentation of my layoff. He disappeared into a back office for 20 minutes. I heard hushed, occasionally heated conversation. When he returned, his smile was tight. You are right. The clause is valid. Previous property manager must have used an outdated template. You couldn't quite hide his annoyance. You'll need to submit formal notice and pay next month's rent at the current rate, not the increased amount. As I walked out of that office, the weight of $18,000 lifted from my shoulders. I could breathe again. I had 30 days to find a new place and a new job, but at least I wasn't financially ruined. 2 weeks later, I found a cheaper apartment in Oakland. A week after that, I landed a new job with better pay than my previous one. The day I moved out, Mark was surprisingly cordial. As he did the final walkthrough, he said something I'll never forget. 15 years in property management, and I've never had a tenant actually find that clause. The owners are changing all our lease templates next week. I smiled. Maybe you should read your contracts more carefully. He laughed despite himself. Maybe we all should. I later learned from a neighbor that the building had been using the same lease template for years, and at least 3 other tenants had broken their leases and paid thousands because they never knew the clause existed. Now, whenever friends sign any contract per rental agreements, Job offers gym memberships, parent, I tell them my story and make them promise one thing: read every single word, even page 17.